They were packed shoulder to shoulder. The speakers even had to stand on a really high ladder just to speak to this crowd because there were so many people here. So most of the people that were here are probably now headed over to the governor's mansion. That will be the third stop these people in Atlanta have made today. Earlier they were at the CNN Center, then they came here to the Capitol, and now they're headed to the governor's mansion. They say they're really trying to make a point to the government. That's why they're here at the Capitol. They say they're trying to make a point that they will not stand for any potential fraud in their elections. They say they are not in agreement with the certification of the results here in Georgia because they told us there's just some things that weren't done uniformly and there wasn't enough transparency.
The recount numbers were not matching the numbers from election night, and the Secretary of State gave instructions that unless new votes were found, don't worry if the numbers didn't match, just submit your same numbers again.
And if we don't stand up for our country right this minute, we could lose our country.
And some of the speakers here came from many different states, namely some of the ones who have a lot of potential fraud going on there, like Michigan and Nevada. We spoke to them to see why it's important to them to come all the way here to Georgia to gather in this rally and speak to this group of people.
Is the fact that we're lobbying the key decision makers directly, and that happens behind the scenes. It means that we're speaking to the people that matter, trying to change opinions, and trying to navigate the process in the best way that we can to ensure that fraud doesn't happen.
It's like everybody out here, those are the people that need to be the next politicians, because we know Slick Willie people like Clinton and Sleepy Joe, we don't need them anymore. We need honest patriots that want to fight for America.
So I think President Trump has one last chance to pull the plug and drop the hammer. He should have the SOCOM go in, special operations guys go in and seize all the data wherever it is, and then have SOCOM intelligence be in charge of declassifying all of it.
And one Texas attorney we spoke with is actually working on the case in Wayne County. She said that she went to the polls on the night of the election and realized that what was happening there was definitely not transparent. So she told us what she saw.
The Democrats locked us out of the process. So, I mean, there was no security. They said they were closing down. They continued going. We got crews. There were crews still in there, but they were just kept really far away from the tables. Nobody's been able to look at anything. But another thing I need to point out is that even if we do these recounts, it's irrelevant because the systems are geared to protect their data and protect their fraudulent elections. So that's, I think, our biggest concern is that the only way you're going to do this is if you actually go in and get the machines audited and see what actually happened with the elections.
This crowd was super passionate and they were very assertive. I'm sure that these rallies here in Georgia are going to keep going on until they do some sort of recertification or have some sort of audit, because these people say they are not backing down until they know the election was secure and there was no fraud involved. They are not going to stand for any fraudulent votes here in Georgia. Reporting in Atlanta, Georgia, Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Brandon Straka, founder of the Walkaway movement, set up his Rescue America rally at an unusual location, CNN headquarters. He and other activists took aim at what they called the fake news media, accusing it of hiding the truth from their viewers during this election.
They will lie, they will cheat, they will omit, they will deceive, they will blatantly patch up anything that they need to patch up for their chosen candidates. If they need to bury evidence for them, they'll do anything that they need to do. But most appalling, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is that if you are a minority person in this country, we are selectively and intentionally targeted by the liberal media in this country.
Founder of the Walkaway movement, Brandon Straka, and others accuse media companies like CNN of covering this year's highly contested election and the Trump campaign's election lawsuits with a slant. This took place right outside of CNN headquarters.
We're standing up for Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents. We're standing up for our right to a true, fair, and transparent election. What is wrong with that? Where are the Democrats? It took Stacey Abrams and the media 3 years before they can say, okay, she lost.
We contacted CNN for comment, but they didn't get back to us before airtime. A rally goer we interviewed says she worked as a poll worker in Gwinnett County during this past week's audit, but she says they weren't allowed to properly do their job.
The most suspicious thing that I saw was the fact that You know, the rules were that the one person takes a ballot and then the next person takes a ballot and they each verify what the name is. And a lot of people were just, one person was taking the ballot and the other person was leaning in, not even saying the name. One person may not even been paying attention, just kind of wandering off in their own little mind. And when we would bring it to the attention, they would say, I was told by several supervisors that it's not necessary that they have to touch the ballots. But yet we're not allowed to get close enough to see the ballots on the name due to social distancing. So I just felt that we were not allowed to be the monitors that we were there to be because they didn't want us to be close enough due to the social distancing. So it just was not did not give me confidence in the system.
Robin said she preferred not to reveal her identity on camera because she was fired from her job this year for supporting President Trump. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Trump supporters went out to protest the 2020 election in the capital of Pennsylvania. We spoke with several attendees, and some of them stressed concerns about the threat of socialism infiltrating the U.S.
Dozens of Trump supporters in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania gathered on the steps leading to the state's government building to protest alleged voter fraud. The protest consisted of people from various backgrounds. One Trump supporter, who is also a registered nurse, explained that he used to live in California, a Democrat stronghold, but added that he felt he had to move elsewhere.
When you're a nurse, you have to join the union in some places, and the unions are like socialist places. They have ridiculous rules and they waste money so bad. So that's why we had to leave. I don't want to live in a place where they take away so much money from us. They have high taxes there.
He also touched on communism and its influence in the West.
I think communism did not stop when the USSR fell. I think the Communist Party in Russia, the Communist Party of China, the Communist Party of Cuba, all the communism, I think they want to still take over the United States and destroy us because they know that we are the last way to stop communism of the world. So we are Americans, we have to fight.
A local pastor said he and his family have a firm grasp of the dangers of communist ideology. That's because his father experienced it firsthand in North Korea.
My family originally is from North Korea, and my father, Reverend Sun Myung Moon, he started the Washington Times, a very strong conservative newspaper here in America. He was in a North Korean death camp and was freed by the U.S. forces in 1953 in Korea. And he made his way to the U.S., and that's why our family knows the danger of communism, the danger of the Chinese Communist Party, of course, your folks know very well, and the danger of communism coming in through the universities, through the media, through halls of government to the United States. And that's the last thing any American should want.
Another attendee advised other Trump supporters to make their voices heard.
We need to gather together. We need to get people out there. We have to stop being afraid. The threats of violence have people staying in their homes. We need to be out here and we need to say exactly how we feel, and we need to let these bureaucrats know that we're not going to just sit by idly in our homes and let this happen. We need to make noise in a good way.
The Trump campaign made a bid to halt the certification of the election in Pennsylvania. They also alternatively requested that all counted ballots be thrown out entirely. Instead, appointed state legislators could choose the delegates that will award the 20 electoral votes at stake.
Americans from across the country joined the rally in Washington, D.C., including groups of Bikers for Trump. Some of them rode over a day to take part in the rally.
With motorbikes, leather, and patriotism, Bikers for Trump rode across the country to Washington, D.C. to join the March for Trump. Some riding 8, 10, and even 34 hours to call for election integrity and upholding the Constitution. This biker from Pennsylvania said this is a movement everyone should be behind, no matter what party you belong to.
We all have to get this right this time. I think they should stop. If I was Joe Biden, I would say stop. All right, let's look at it all. Let's take a fair look at everything. Why would he want to go in there and be a president recognized as not being legitimate? Possibly. So really, both sides, I think, have to sit down and say, okay, let's take a hard look at this and see what happened. And if he was fairly elected, God bless him. He's our president. But I don't think that's the fact. So that's why we're here. We want to let the president know that we support his efforts to get to the truth.
Mark Purcell used to be a local Democratic politician in Pennsylvania. This year, he volunteered as a poll worker. He says in all his years in politics and throughout all the elections he's participated in, he's never seen such suspicious behavior at the polls, and he worries that some people could have voted twice.
I've run a lot of my own elections for my own public office. I've helped people run for Congress. I've helped people run for Senate. Everything. I've never seen this, ever. There's something very, very wrong here.
The organizer for Bikers for Trump Arizona said he came because he believes there's no way Arizona turned blue.
I was born and raised in Arizona. Arizona's a red state. Arizona's a free state. And Arizona's a Trump state. We got rallies back there we have for Trump. We had MAGA drag parades, 96 miles long. We got rallies every weekend. There's no way that Biden beat Trump in Arizona. So it's ongoing. We're finding out.
He says people in his community are upset about what's going on because they don't trust the outcome of the election.
I think what everybody's mostly upset about is not being able to go and cast a vote and know that you did your duty and it's going to be good. Everybody wants to know that it's on the up and up. And when there's doubt, when they cast this much doubt on it, especially, if you try to turn a red state blue as hard as they did, you bring a lot of doubt.
And at the rally, the founder of We Back Blue, a national police advocacy organization, says she was at the rally because she thinks the election was rigged. She asked what's happened to America.
What happened to America? What happened to the land of the free and where we respected everybody and we watched everybody with just respect? That's not who you vote for, that's fine, that's who I'm voting for. That was respect. We don't have that anymore. It starts there.
A woman who fled from authoritarianism in Nigeria for freedom in the United States says she thinks Joe Biden would bring socialism and ultimately communism to America. She said that if that happens, people like her will have nowhere to escape to.
Very many communist nations have come to the United States of America in search of the same freedom and liberty. But unfortunately, the place that they are running to, that we all came to for a difference, is about to be taken away from us too. Where else are we going to go? To the moon? To Pluto? To Mars? There's nowhere else to go. America is the only place that we all can come to.
She said she supports President Trump because he protects American freedom and stands up to communist and authoritarian regimes like the one she fled.
And that's why what President Trump is doing is great, because it is only President Trump that can stand up to China. It is only President Trump that can stand up to the Communist Party, in China. President Trump is not afraid to look them in the eye and tell them to free the people of China. And that's what President Trump is trying to do. Biden is not going to do that. Biden is not going to fight for the people of China. Biden is not going to fight for the future of China, of the Chinese people. Biden is going to fight, he's going to support the Communist Party of China. Indirectly or directly, mark my words.
When this biker for Trump from Ohio was asked why he came to the rally, his answer was very simple.
The Constitution of the United States. Our Constitution is the highest law of the land, and we're here to make sure that the Constitution is followed.
He said he's not a Trump supporter, a Republican, or a Democrat. He's a constitutional American. He said presidents come and go, but it's the Constitution that remains and needs to be protected. Reporting by Grace Coulter, NTD News.
And today, Jefferson City also held a Trump rally. The supporters gathered to share their perspectives on the importance of a transparent election. NTD's David Jung has the story.
Trump supporters from Jefferson City in Missouri came out to support the president this Saturday. That amid the Trump campaign's multiple allegations of potential voter fraud. One supporter compared the possibility of an unfair election to getting robbed.
We just demand a country that's free and not subject to being manipulated by fraud and theft. We won't allow it.
He says he wants a full audit for the sake of the American people.
The polling places that were closed to the observers, if you look at the cards that are, the drives that are showing up with additional votes, opportunities to reload ballots that have already been used, mail-in votes, no IDs required, no signature verifications, and all of this is orchestrated on the key battlestick places. It just looks like it was planned, and coordinated.
He added the election protocol needs to improve.
It sounds very odd to me that we're using election voting systems that were originated from Venezuela.
The 2020 presidential election saw controversies surrounding vote integrity. The Stop the Steal movement was born to protect counting legal votes. A father of 3 told us if recount happens, Trump would win.
Yeah, and I have no doubt if we redid the election and had only actual legal voters vote, it'd be a landslide victory for Trump. No doubt in my mind.
And explained to us why he supports the president.
Like I said in the beginning, he's pro-God, he's pro-life, he's pro-freedom, individual liberty. Like I said in the beginning, he's pro everything that's good and everything that's right.
Another attendee expressed love for liberty in America and asserted that freedom is at danger.
Well, I love this country more than anything. This country means everything to me. And to see our freedom being destroyed and the Liberty Tree is dying.
They also want the message of fundamental values of America to be heard.
An individual right given from God, not by the Constitution. The Constitution just grants our right given to God to be able to protect ourselves, protect our family, our homes, our property. They want to take that away. That's communism.
Truth always trickles to the top. Look, every person in America can be prosperous. My dad was a cotton farmer, okay? He picked cotton by hand till his hands bled, okay? And he rose from that. He never even graduated from high school. He rose from that, and he was a successful man. I have 30 inventions. I worked 35 years protecting this country. Everybody can do it, but you got to apply yourself. You got to work hard. That's how you do it. Just apply yourself. God will bless your effort. He will.
President Trump and his legal team are seeking multiple litigations across key battleground states. David Zhang, NTD News.
And while some flocked to major cities to rally for election integrity, in Illinois, our reporters spoke with attendees of a local Stop the Steal rally.
In a suburb north of Chicago, Illinois, in Lake County, locals came out to show their support. Lynn Ulrich, a Trump supporter, says he's concerned about Dominion voting system. The software has been accused of being designed to flip votes. A key personnel within the company is also accused of having ties to Antifa.
They stopped counting the votes in the middle of the night, which is what they did in Venezuela or another one of the countries also. So that's how they stole a lot of the votes, because when they stopped counting, there was a huge spike, like hundreds of thousands of votes for Biden.
A participant at the rally criticized mail-in ballots, saying they are prone to error and fraud.
Absolutely, there's voter fraud. We've known that from the start. We believe that because of this mail-in ballots were sent out to people without even them requesting it. So we've known that. We've known that people have been ballot harvesting, that they've gone around and collected ballots from people without their knowledge, without their consent. We've known about people have been voting that are dead, that they've been voting. People's dogs have been voting. It is absolutely ridiculous the amount of fraud that has occurred across the country, and mainly in some of the key states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Virginia, Georgia. I am so glad they're taking it serious and that they're investigating this, as they should. We want fair elections in this country.
While dozens showed up to the rally, others honked their horns as they passed, all in a show of support.
And Trump supporters also gathered in Boston, Massachusetts. We had reporters on the ground there talking to rallygoers. Here's what some of them had to say.
Trump supporters gathered at Boston's Charlestown Navy Yard to take part in the Stop the Steal event there. Here's what they have to say about mail-in ballots, social media censorship, and what they think will happen next.
I mean, at this point, all I want is an investigation, because there were too many anomalies, too many statistically impossible anomalies for us not to look into this.
I completely agree that the president is the duly elected president for the next 4 years, and I think that the left-wing media and their way of calling an election before the votes are even counted is a way of suppressing Americans' votes. And we as Americans need to stand up for the real, true elections, legal votes that are counted. I believe the mail-in ballot process is completely illegal and should have never been allowed under our Constitution. It's just really difficult to look around and see what's happening to our democracy and see how the left is completely turned to communism and socialism and is trying to push that on the American people without them even realizing it. Liberty was born here in Massachusetts. I will not let it die here.
We could speak up and stand up and hope that, Trump and the lawyers can straighten up. And the Supreme Court's already taken the swing states, and they're in charge of the election. So hopefully they can straighten it out. And if Biden won legitimately, I would accept that.
I think there's a lot of legitimate upset by people who are questioning the integrity of the election. I think there's a lot of reason for people, and Trump supporters in particular, uniquely, to be concerned about the election. But overall, I think everybody should be concerned about the election. Media censorship is terrible. It's ruining the internet. For a lot of people, social media is the major capacity in which they use the internet. And these big tech companies, they move in this kind of amorphous form altogether, that all the social media companies kind of implement similar censorship policy across the board. But I think censorship is a bad thing. I think if we're going to have a free press, we need to also have accessible social media so that.
Residents in Nevada's Clark County also held a Stop the Steal rally. A Japanese man there says although he's not a U.S. citizen, he received a mail-in ballot. He says he doesn't know how he, as a green card holder, was registered to vote.
Residents in Nevada's Clark County held a Stop the Steal rally to protest election fraud last Saturday. A Japanese man who was a green card holder exposed that although he is not a U.S. citizen, he received a mail-in ballot. He was puzzled as to why he was registered as a voter by local authorities.
I received a mail-in ballot, okay? But I'm not American citizen. I'm a legal alien. Green card holder in the United States. So I suppose not receive mail-in ballot. But I received it, so of course I didn't vote. But I'm going to tell you why my information in registered as a voter. So I never voted, okay? But I don't know how I became a registered voter. I have no idea. I never registered.
Mr. Igarashi's voter status was still active when he checked it online.
This is my just opinion. It's not fact. But there must be a DMV is giving out all the information, whether they are American citizen or not, and they just send it out a mail-in ballot.
Igarashi hopes President Trump will be reelected because he believes Trump is leading the United States in the right direction by resisting socialism and communism and protecting American people's freedom and basic rights.
He's the one to be able to uncover what is going on in America. And I don't want one party to dominate, Democrat to dominate these countries, who move to the probably socialism. And eventually all the freedom lose, like China. I can see Venezuela, Cuba, and China, Soviet Union, the people's freedom of religion, especially freedom of religion, was taken away. Falun Gong, persecution in China.
Stop the Steal organizers in all 50 states have announced that they will continue to protest election fraud and voice their support for President Trump in the coming weekend.
President Trump participated in the G20 summit virtually today. The press secretary says he's urging world leaders to work together to overcome the CCP virus pandemic. During his remarks, President Trump said the United States used every resource at its disposal to respond to the crisis, including the development of vaccines and therapeutics at record speed. He added that U.S. economic recovery is shaping up from tax cuts, trade deals, and energy independence, and that the G20 needs to work together for future growth. And Vice President Mike Pence campaigned for 2 Georgia Senate candidates on Friday, calling them the last line of defense for Republicans.
Vice President Mike Pence on Friday urged Georgians to vote Republican in the upcoming U.S. Senate runoffs. The runoffs will determine which party controls the upper congressional chamber.
and because the Republican Senate majority could be the last line of defense for all that we've done to defend this nation, revive our economy, and preserve the God-given liberties that we hold dear.
He also mentioned potential election fraud in the 2020 presidential election.
We're going to keep fighting until every legal vote is counted. We're going to keep fighting until every illegal vote is thrown out.
Pence said the Republicans will defend religious freedom, recalling a California senator's remark about Justice Amy Coney Barrett.
And you all remember when Judge Amy Coney Barrett went through her confirmation 2 years ago. And the leading Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee said she was concerned about Judge Barrett's Catholic faith. She said, and I quote, "The dogma lives loudly within you." And their allies in Hollywood have been attacking Judge Barrett's faith ever since. Well, I got news for the Democrats in Washington and 2 Democrats that want to join them. That dogma lives loudly in me. That dogma lives loudly in you. And the right to live and worship according to the dictates of our faith lives loudly in the Constitution of the United States of America.
Senators Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue failed to get a majority of votes in the November 3rd election, triggering twin runoffs with their Democratic challengers.
We will never stop fighting for you, standing up against the radicalists, against socialism. We are going to get this job done.
But today, we're the last line of defense against this country making a change to the left that we won't get to undo for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. We cannot let that happen. Ronald Reagan reminded us of our responsibility. He reminded us that freedom is never more than 1 generation away from extinction. We don't pass it down in the bloodstream. It has to be fought for, protected, and passed on, or one day in our sunset years, we'll be sitting around telling our children and our grandchildren what it was once like in America when women and men were free. Not on our watch, guys. Kelly and I are asking you to stand with us. Stand in the breach here against socialism. Stand in the breach against Chuck Schumer. Stand in the breach against AOC. And let's make darn sure that the road to socialism never runs through the state of Georgia.
The White House hasn't said whether President Trump will travel to Georgia to campaign for the senators. Biden aide Ron Klain said earlier this month that he believes Biden will visit the state.
There's a new group on the rise in Congress. Several elected Republican representatives whose families fled socialist countries are forming a freedom force. Their purpose is to fight socialism and to rival the Democratic Party's Squad.
Democrat Representatives Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley became known as the Squad for their shared progressive agenda. The 4 congresswomen supported the Defund the Police movement, Medicare for All, free college education, the Green New Deal, and other socialist policies. But now there's a new clique that's entering the fray. According to the New York Post, Republican Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis said, "We need to form our own squad. We have a group of new Republicans who love America. We value freedom, liberty, and opportunity." Malliotakis, whose mother's family fled Cuba, will be the only Republican in the New York City congressional delegation in the coming January. She's backed by 3 newly elected Republican Congress members, including Carlos Jimenez, Maria Elvira Salazar, and Victoria Spartz. Spartz grew up in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic and lived there for 42 years. She said she's very sad to see what is happening in the U.S. Election results so far showed the Republicans gaining 8 extra House seats, 7 from the Democratic Party and 1 from others. The Democratic Party is projected to keep its majority in the House with a narrow margin.
Based on current data, President Trump has got the most votes of any sitting president seeking re-election. He also broke the record set by former President Barack Obama in 2008 for the most number of votes received by any presidential candidate.
President Trump's 73 million votes record is a whopping 10 million more than he got in his last bid for presidency, based on current data. The president made significant gains with all racial groups, performing particularly well among minority voters. According to the Edison Research exit poll from the 2016 general election, just 8% of black American voters chose Trump over Clinton. The same Edison Research exit poll this year shows that black Trump voters have grown to 12%, a 50% increase. For both black men and women, there are significant jumps. 19% of black men voted for Trump in 2020 versus 13% in 2016. Just 4% of black women chose Trump over Hillary Clinton in 2016, but that figure has more than doubled to 9% this year. Among America's 40 predominantly black counties, Trump received 8% more votes than he did 4 years ago. Trump's performance among Hispanic voters in key battleground states is even more outstanding. According to the New York Times analysis based on the National Election Pool by Edison Research, Trump's votes in the nation's 47 counties with a Hispanic majority went up by 37% from 2016 to 2020. In America's 32 large counties with a majority-minority population, Trump received 30% more votes this election than he did in 2016. One of the biggest jumps in votes for President Trump was in Miami-Dade County of Florida, where at least 200,000 more people voted for Trump compared to 4 years ago. That county is home to a significant population of Cuban Americans, many of whom resonate with the president's tough stance on socialism and the communist Cuban regime. Trump's votes in Florida went up from 49% in 2016 to 51.2% in 2020, doubling his win margin. Trump's growing popularity among Hispanic voters is similarly significant in southern Texas, in traditionally Democrat counties bordering Mexico. Sabata County, for example, where nearly 95% of the population is Hispanic, voted for Trump by 52% to 47% over Biden, although the county voted for Hillary Clinton over Trump by 65% to 32% back in 2016. Among Asian Americans, Trump voters have also grown noticeably, from 27% in 2016 to 34% this year. Trump's anti-communist message has also resonated with many immigrant communities that have suffered under communist regimes in Asia.